inspiration for design for me is the idea of scale. What's really amazing about digital technology is that you can take a thing that you've thought about, an idea that literally is on a piece of paper. You work with a group of people to realize that vision, and then it goes to millions of people. We're in this incredible period of change. All companies that want to remain relevant in the very near future either go through digital transformation or they die. Design's a utility. It's meant to provide answers. It's meant to get you from point A to point B, and it helps you think through the problem. But then you have to be able to tell the story.
Digital transformation has something of revolution, but I think it's something that we need.
I understand it as I need to transform because I'm getting outdated.
Design has methodology that can help you manage this chaos.
The digital revolution is going to continue to happen. The more we can get people to use technology differently, the more I think that we're going to be able to move things forward.
Creating a more human banking. I do believe that is possible, and I think design is a driver to do that.
It's an exciting time for farming from a technology point of view, from a user experience point of view. Things are getting easier, and that's going to make these revolutionary technologies really accessible and take hold, I think, in agriculture.
I know firsthand how digital transformation revolutionizes entertainment. It's hard not to see how much that affects every other business, every other endeavor, and all of our lives in radical ways.
At BBVA, there's an incredible amount of history here, and there's an incredible amount of legacy systems. We have effectively blown all that up. There's tons of press around the threat of the big tech firms coming into finance. We're all users of their products, and it is second to none. We believe that in the finance space, we can do the same. At BBVA, we built the first banking app. Even though we've been at it the longest, we're still at our infancy for developing an organization where design is a part of everything we do. I was brought here to run design. Of course, we need data, we need engineering and technology, but the designers are the people that are really asking why. And once they've satisfied themselves with figuring out why, they develop the how.
Without design, digital transformation is just about technology. When you realize all the potential of design, you need to bring it in-house.
4 years ago, we had a small local team dedicated to production. Today, we are 200 designers here in BBVA.
We now have designers across every discipline, from research to service to UX to visual. So it's that critical component of making sure that designers are front and center of all development across BBVA.
It is not possible digital transformation without design. It's a key factor of transformation. From design, I love the idea of that everything could be improved. We are facing a new era in the finance industry. The relevance of BBVA can be defined in seconds. Our customer has more options to decide, and every year this industry is changing.
You need to think on technology from a new perspective, and it's not about moving all the things we have in the past to new apps and websites that we are building. It's about how we can make a bridge to connect the technology with user needs. What are their fears? What are their wishes? What are their ambitions? And how we can provide something meaningful for them.
As designers, we have skills and mindset and tool sets to be really close to our customers. We need to innovate and deliver fabulous and awesome experiences, because if we don't do that, I think we can be removed from the landscape here.
I think that a company that doesn't embrace design is going to be for them super complex to survive because the world is super competitive at the moment. You don't know if a small company is going to disrupt.
Old VHS movies.
We've always been a retail store. We've always rented movies and sold movies in the store. And now it's way more of a tourist attraction. We have people that fly in from all over the world.
That's classic. Lost Boys. They're maggots, Michael.
What happened to Blockbuster? They didn't keep up with the times. The internet generally has killed a lot of brick and mortar. That's just the way things are.
Oh my gosh, you can probably sell these on eBay for a good chunk of change. I mean, what happened was the internet. I watched movies through Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, not Blockbuster anymore.
It is Netflix or it's Prime Video or, that kind of a thing. It's just, like right on the cell phone.
Blockbuster didn't evolve. They become the visible face of a non-streaming delivery source, especially like almost a flippant disregard for indicators.
So I'm really good at using Amazon at this point. I hate to support them because they are technically our competitor. And of course, when I need movies and I need them tomorrow, they are my best friend.
My family would get its DVDs from a local Blockbuster. It was only 4 blocks from our house. And the experience I had was horrible. I would walk in the store, I would spend 15 minutes trying to find a DVD that I thought my family would like. I would actually wait in line to pay for my rental, which drives me crazy. There'd be some punk kid there with zits. And then I'd bring my DVD home, and my family would complain that they had already seen the disc. And even more, I would forget to return the disc, and I would now owe Blockbuster like $40. So this was this horrible experience. Blockbuster is a classic case of it was disrupted by Netflix, and this has happened again and again.
Netflix started out as a DVD delivery system. I remember when my wife came home one day and said, we don't have to go to Blockbuster or Hollywood Video anymore. We can get these things by mail. And I went by mail, and then I thought about it for 5 seconds and went, oh, that's genius. So it took out having to physically hop in the car, go to the video store, flip through something for 45 minutes, and damn it, it's already out. It became this super convenient way for me to get content.
Blockbuster had an opportunity to buy Netflix for $50 million circa 2001.
And that deal was on, being discussed and so forth. And in the end, Blockbuster backed away from it. And they said nah, it's not worth it. This thing isn't the way it's going to go. Well, obviously, a couple of years later, Blockbuster goes, oh my God, is it too late? And they started diving into, we need to ship DVDs by the mail too. And we need to lean into this next wave of the digital transformation.
Around that time, they launched their own DVD by mail service. And they were copying everything that Netflix did.
They got into the game of DVDs by mail too late. But it was called Netflix for a reason. It wasn't called DVD Company, because the vision was DVDs are going to be replaced, and the internet's going to get better and better, and the bandwidth's going to get better and better. Flash back a second. For those old enough to remember, like me, do you remember the days a couple of decades ago when you would hit to play a video on the internet and it would be the size of a postage stamp and it would rebuffer painfully over and over again because you wouldn't have enough bandwidth to handle it? We had a booming US business of shipping those DVDs through the mail in those red envelopes. We went public, things were going fantastic, but we realized those days were numbered.
So the vision was to get big on DVDs. That happened. And then the next chapter was to lead streaming. And that has happened. And then the third, expand internationally, and that has happened. And then you see that Netflix has been investing more and more and more in its original content. And that's the chapter that Netflix is in today. I think the magic in what Netflix does and what they've done, for me, it comes to this notion of, I call it customer obsession, of it being maniacally focused on how can you delight your customers in ways that make sense for the business. At the end of the day, we were trying to build a brand that stood for really four simple words: movie, enjoyment, made easy. And that was the experience that we were trying to create for our members.
Hulu, when it first launched, was, an evil plot to destroy the world with Alec Baldwin. And this was the famous commercial that played at the Super Bowl. Hulu is the definition of digital transformation. Hulu, as it is today, is a little bit different than what it was when it started. When Hulu started originally, it was media companies that were seeing more and more people are watching video and television and film online. And they decided they needed to invest in this area to disrupt themselves, or else they would be disrupted by someone else. The idea was that we would be an innovation sector of a group of companies that were looking at digital transformation and going, oh, we need to be a part of this. I can only imagine what the CEO of a company has to deal with. The amount of information coming from all sides. And then the CFO has to deal with information coming in, from a financial side, and the CTO has to deal with information coming in from a technology side. And in a lot of ways, it's kind of like the parable of the blind man and the elephant. You have, let's say, 6 blind men that are touching the elephant, and one blind man says, oh, the elephant has a trunk. And then the other one goes, no, it's a tail. Another one says, no, it's a big floppy ear. And one says, no, it's a wall. And you realize they're not wrong. They're all correct, but they have their slice of the elephant that they're describing. So one of the powerful things about design is to envision the totality of the elephant. When I got to Hulu, I actually commissioned a short film because I realized we were a storytelling company. Let me tell a story. And we made a vision video that described, in the near future, human beings interacting with Hulu. And once we showed this short film of a day in the life of many young people interacting with Hulu, everybody said, oh, that's the elephant in its totality. Not just this trunk, not just the tail, not just the side, but the whole elephant. And then everybody could then go, that's the thing we're going to go make. And then they could take their slice of it and go running with it. So a really good design leader, I feel, can speak the language of all these different parts of the elephant to the company as a whole, and then say, here's your part, here's your part, here's your part. Digital transformation is inevitable, and it's going to affect everybody in all companies. And either you're going to be someone who thinks, it's not important for me to deal with this or not. But in reality, it is. It's a giant tsunami, that's coming through and changing the way business is intrinsically done. And what's going to happen also is that jobs that were traditionally there for most people, and oftentimes, whether it's skilled or unskilled physical labor, those things are going to change.
My favorite thing about farming is really just the ability to influence and the ability to create. For 160 years, this farm has been under the control of the same family.
My name is Cannon Michael, and I'm the 6th generation of my family to be involved with our farming business here in Central California. Sustaining a family farm is not easy. Technology is essential for our farm. We have to adopt new methods to improve our business and our efficiency. We've had to learn quite a bit and bring on people that are willing to adapt and change.
There's a large breadth of data in agriculture, a lot of which is not documented well. Traditional data systems would be spreadsheets or pieces of paper.
We really look at our farm as an ecosystem. And, there's a place for technology to play a role, not only in, obviously our tractors, but how does technology fully encompass the entire ecosystem of the farm? If you think about what you have to do to introduce technology into a farming operation, it really begins with what are you going to really ask that technology to do? Technology can be really, really expensive if it's not focused.
My wife's family, they're 5 generations of farmers. I could see as the group wanted to scale their farms that the problem with that was it was all on paper, pen, not even in Excel. The idea was, well, what if we were able to centralise that?
AgWorld is an online agriculture platform that allows farmers to track all of their information in one place and make really great decisions in the moment so that they can keep that farm going. Agriculture for a long time has been an industry where we knew what we were doing, kind of was passed down from our ancestors, and we kind of did it that way all the time. As technology is becoming bigger in the world, it makes sense to start integrating that into these industries where it isn't. As farmers are looking at decisions on what I purchase and how I apply it and what amounts, having the data to make those decisions is so important.
Our job is to make them successful, not to sell them the software. It's a noisy landscape and somebody has to help farmers assemble what they need now to what they need in the future.
Yeah, typically I'm driving. My family's farm is just, another hour and a half south of here. Yep, that's how I got into this, was our own personal needs. Agriculture is really fascinating. It's been around for thousands and thousands of years, and they've got lots of information. It's information overload in a lot of ways. They're not information poor. It's floating everywhere, but they need to understand it in a few seconds while they're in the field making decisions. There's a relatively short amount of tries that you get as a farmer. Every grower is probably going to get 30 or 40 tries.
So how do you know how much a field produced versus another field? Is it just average? Average across everything?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Exactly.
Interesting. This farmer once told me, if you've seen one farm, you've seen one farm. And I think that's really true because everybody has slightly different systems and everybody has different people and different procedures and different standards. I don't come from a farming background. You really have an ideal version of what's happening in the field when you're sitting in your office and trying to design systems for farmers. And whenever you go out and actually sit in a tractor and you go, okay, I couldn't do this today because of the field was bogged down or it rained yesterday, so we couldn't get to it. All of these factors, without those field visits, you wouldn't see those things because they don't come out in interviews on the phone. It's not the sort of things that people bring up because it's part of their everyday. It's invisible to them. And really a large part of doing these design interviews and field interviews is uncovering those things that are invisible. How many acres or something are you doing?
They have 3 harvesters in the field, probably 100 to 120 acres a day.
Yep.
Are you using any of the nitrogen tracking? Are you concerned with that at all, correlating nitrogen to yield?
We're excited to look at that. I know that will be important very soon.
A lot of people want to design agricultural technology without actually knowing what the farmer does. You have to get out there in field with your customer or else your product is going to fail. It's a hard thing to see, and it's actually been very challenging for agriculture in general because when people come and they bring software that fails, it makes growers more reluctant to adopt software in the future.
There's a lot of space for design and technology to make things a lot simpler for people to understand. I'm collecting all of this data now and it's all on this platform, and how does that make my life better? To make it simple for somebody, simplicity is definitely a key aspect of being able to adopt digital transformation and any technology in general.
We worked really closely in field and we have always kept that focus, and they voice their opinion, and the key there is to really listen to what they're saying, not give them the solution they're asking for, but to listen to what they're saying and their problem and design the correct solution.
Are you a Netflix member?
Yes.
Okay. What devices do you watch Netflix on?
My Samsung TV.
Do you ever watch on your phone?
I did for the first time this past weekend at the airport.
Tell us 3 ways we can make Netflix better. Take your time.
Seriously.
I would say just an easier way of finding the categories that you're looking for.
Talk us through what you're doing.
See, this is something that I don't seem to have on the when I go on the television.
Yeah.
You know, like here, like I just went, okay, I want to find classics because I love watching black and whites.
Yeah.
And I went to the genre and it's right there, classics. So it seems like faster, easier.
Okay.
It's really important to make incremental progress on your product, to listen to your users, to talk to them. We go into their homes, we see how they use Netflix, and that's super important.
By designing things well, it's not about making it pretty. It's about making it useful. It's about making it fast. It's streamlining it. And it's about meeting expectations. The important part, though, is understanding the expectations. If I don't ask you what you want, and then if I don't observe you to see if your actions and your words align, then I don't really know what expectations I'm supposed to meet.
Netflix knows that Disney's going to be increasingly aggressive, and they've known this for years. Apple is a huge and big competitor, as is Amazon. They recognize that their members are also watching on Amazon Prime, and they're also watching Hulu.
You have a case with the streaming wars, which is amazing to me that we have streaming wars now, because now suddenly you have these giant, large media-backed companies that are truly at war with each other. It's gone from being a knife fight to being an actual, war. We're in this incredible period of change, and the group that's going to win is the one that has the simplest and most delightful experience for their user. When you have two things that can kind of do the same thing, and maybe one actually does even more, but the experience of using it is so much more complicated, people will automatically go with the easier experience.
So something that we've tried to test out of, and we keep on going back to because it works so well, is the Rose kind of paradigm.
Rose.
Rose work, the virtual shelves work. The question is, how do we evolve that?
It's time for us to do something that I think allows people to understand what they want to watch faster. Because look what you're doing right now. You're still scrolling left, right, up, and down. And by doing this, it's actually creating FOMO. Because even if you want to watch this show right now, you're like, ooh, but what about this? Ooh, but what about this? This isn't supposed to be a feed. This is supposed to help you make a decision.
But I hear you, because with this internet TV paradigm, you have a huge catalog that's at your beck and call where you can watch whatever you want, wherever you want, but the choice dilemma comes in.
I have a lot of conversations with a lot of designers about this UI all the time, and I think that people don't actually realize how much we have tested into this. How every single pixel that you're seeing on the screen right now is something that we have tried and tested across hundreds of thousands of people around the galaxy, around the planet, in order to help make sure that this is the winning test.
The strongest and biggest collaborators with your design team are our members.
Absolutely.
Because our members are at the end, are the arbiters of what works. And I don't mean they're literally voting, I mean their behavior is telling us which one is going to give them the biggest value for Netflix to help them find the best content and the fastest way.
Absolutely.
If I go over to Unwatched in my stuff, these are shows that I've expressed interest in, and I've basically kept them in my stuff, which is kind of a repository or library for things I want to watch in the future. The user experience on Hulu, which was originally designed under the codename Bowie, given the namesake of Bowie, the idea would be that we would continuously evolve the experience year to year to year, and as we have a combination of content, user experience, recommendation engine, eventually AI tying into the whole experience, the UX will become dynamic. So the experience, for example, that my mother would have on Hulu would look markedly different from mine over time, and even more different than my teenage daughter's. The redesign of the Hulu experience was an enormously grand undertaking requiring the whole company to come together. Everything from technology, product, technical program management, marketing and branding to come together to this giant heavy lift to change the entirety of the experience across the whole company.
Design is happening outside design. It's something that we're always discussing. In fact, people who are developing software, people who are defining new services for employees, tools for managers and branches, all that kind of stuff. We are not really there, but design is happening. Sometimes there's a problem when companies are trying to transform. They think about innovation and disruption and digital transformation as an isolated place, creating bubbles of transformation. And most of the employees, well, they don't feel part of that movement. If we don't reskill, we lose the opportunity to work as one team. And this kind of situation creates inequality for all the employees. And it's part of our purpose to bring opportunities to everyone.
It's super important to shift from a traditional hierarchical model where you say to others that you must do that to a different position where you allow people in your company to have the spaces for experimentation and spaces for trial and error and spaces for learning.
It's our strategy to support the rest of employees, learning from designers, to acquire new abilities, new skills, to protect employees and avoid to have two different companies, the digital and the analogic.
132,000 employees at BBVA. And we have a design program open to everyone.
People need to keep learning. They become stagnant if they don't have the ability to learn. And so we've built a campus solely based on teaching people new techniques and new ways of working and new languages.
The senior leadership support all this important investment in design.
Tenemos oportunidades e insights y ahora lo que vamos a hacer es cerrar la fase de comprensión.
Sagrado is a colleague at BBVA design team that is responsible for managing the Design Ambassador program.
Estamos hablando en plural todo el rato, ¿verdad? We are at Campus BBVA. Campus BBVA is at La Moraleja. It's in the outskirts of Madrid, in a very quiet area. This used to be an old monastery. I teach design thinking workshop. We invite here 25 to 30 people and we invest 4 days with them. And we do that in order to make them work differently. During 4 days, we start empathizing with our customers, we ideate, and then we prototype and test those solutions.
Before coming here, I didn't know much about design. I'm a computer engineer. I didn't relate design to the way I solve problems.
¿Cómo podríamos? They want to give meaningful solutions to their clients. When they realize that there is a way to do that, that's much more human-centered and that give much more meaning to their work, that's a change. And this is value that the bank had, but they didn't know they had.
Before design thinking, when we have a problem to solve, we spend little time understanding the problem. We believe that if we are not focused on execution, we are not delivering. We can find some problems that could be prevented, that can make this reporting more dynamic and provide a better experience to the end user.
We want them to go out there, really feeling themselves transformed. I'm a completely different person, I work completely different. Give me a challenge that I'll solve it for you. They actually need to have that sparkle, this will to work that way, to give something different to our users, and to make us, a traditional bank, really different, and really make ourselves survive.
To start. Here the south side. If you want to start here, program the water, the amount of hours. Okay. Say like 3. Here we go. Now starts the water.
Okay. How long did you set it for? 3 hours?
3 hours.
Perfect.
One of the things I have the most pride in as it relates to how we've adopted technology on the farm is to be able to see the new jobs that have been made available by the technology we've embraced. What do we have here on the left side?
So right here we have our maps. It shows our sets of the fields.
I've been working here about 9 years. My dad started working here in 1991. I'm a supervisor for irrigation. We use our iPad like mostly every day to enter all your data. We're doing like all irrigation, like everything, what's happening in the ranch.
So Bowles Farming, they've taken the view that, well, what are we going to do with the next generation and how are we going to hand that over? And I think that's at the forefront of every farmer's mind. The succession planning either goes really well or really bad. It doesn't go in between.
In terms of responsibility, working in an industry like agriculture where it touches so many people and in a very fundamental way, you do have a strong sense of responsibility that you want to make sure that people are not making mistakes. You want to make sure that, they're doing the best they can.
The intention of AgWorld from the beginning was to keep more farmers farming. Everything is at stake for farmers. The weather in the United States this year was absolutely crazy. Everywhere we looked, we had farmers underwater. We had farmers who weren't getting any water. If it happens again, which often it will, nature repeats itself, then we will have some insights into what we did, how you pivoted, what you did to adjust.
The great thing about farming is it actually impacts everybody. Everybody has to eat. So if we can enable those growers to be better now, it's going to help them be better faster and be better in the future, and everybody benefits. It's really important for our whole team to understand what the grower is going through. That's a core pillar of what needs to be there for a digital transformation, particularly in agriculture. There's that human component. You're not going to get rid of the people component. We really look at how can we add value to the people that are managing the business.
Having the responsibility to support adaptation for all the employees, adapting their careers to these new roles that we need for doing all this important transformation.
If change is coming, I want to be part of that change. I'm not the kind of person that wants to become obsolete. I love learning new things. This design thinking has a lot to do with agile framework. If you try to look for new ways of doing, your performance and your skills can improve.
We provide the tools that we can share with others, not for them to be designers, but for them to do their job different and to be more connected to the goals of the company, that is to be more connected with users.
Being the manager of the last Blockbuster on the planet, I do not feel like I'm an expert to give advice to anyone. But if I was going to be giving advice, I would probably tell them to listen to their customers, to listen to what people are telling them. Don't put on blinders. Don't think that just because you've been doing this for the last 20 years, you're gonna be able to ride it out. Technology changes far too fast for that.
There was a video store right here. It was called Videotech, and we sold VHS tapes. Everything is a climb, and everything's tough, and you never know if you're gonna succeed on the next hurdle. My advice would be don't get lost in the big data. Remember that there's people behind this and use it in a wise way. When we talk about digital transformation, we're talking about people's lives and how it changed people's lives. Regular people who don't have time to understand complicated systems, they just want to go about their day, either getting their basic needs or their extra needs, like entertainment.
The great design is always starting with the person first. It's not starting with the technology or the math first. When you're thinking about digital revolutions, it's understanding people. It's anticipating what people want next. People are finally saying, I'm not going to live my life by all the things that you tell me I should live it by. You're going to have to adapt to me if you're going to want to get my dollars, because I have an opportunity to vote with my dollars.
Highly creative people don't like rules, they don't like process, and Netflix worked hard to create an environment where highly talented people could do their things, whether it's for designers or engineers or product leaders, or today, a storytelling community. And if you look at the Netflix team, the team has evolved, and this is really part of the culture.
There's a way of doing something that a company does. Design and creativity, by its very nature, then questions Is that the way to do it? What design can do beautifully is pre-visualize the future. It's a radical rewiring of the human experience. The upside of digital transformation across all businesses is that it'll actually unlock more creative thinking in people.